Welcome to module numbers 4 and 5. In this module, we shall cover syllabus areas 4 and 5. We will be covering MoV techniques, covering sections 4.1 to 4.3 of the official manual. So these are the components that we're going to study. As a part of this particular module, we're going to cover the two syllabus areas, namely the MoV specific techniques and common techniques that are used frequently with MoV. So some of the techniques that we're going to cover would include functional analysis, functional cost analysis, value engineering / analysis, and some of the techniques commonly used in MoV. So the techniques that we're going to cover, which are unique to MoV, are function analysis. There's an acronym that we would encounter in this module, FAST, Function Analysis System Technique. There are different function analysis techniques. We're going to look into them. And one of the types of function analysis is a value tree analysis. So we'll kind of look into an example of these two techniques. And there are some measuring techniques such as value profile, value index, and value for money ratio. We're going to look into some examples for these elements. And finally, we're going to conclude with an understanding of what value engineering / analysis is all about. Now let's think a little bit about the MoV specific technique, which is function analysis. There are two groups of techniques that are used in MoV. The first group comprises those that are used exclusively with MoV. And arguably the most important of this group is the function analysis, which kind of analyzes what things do rather than what they are. Function analysis provides the key to gaining a better understanding of a program or project, making decisions based on value and generating innovative proposals to improve value. And again, there are different types of function analysis. We're going to examine them shortly. All are based on the same logic, asking how something is done, and conversely asking why it is done. So there are broadly three types of function analysis. Number one is a traditional or classic FAST. Second one, so the first one is for more of a general use. The second one is a technical functional analysis for analyzing technical situations. And the third one is a customer functional analysis, which is used for customer requirements. For portfolio, program, project, and operational MoV studies, we're going to use customer functional analysis. So here is a diagrammatic representation of how a function analysis system would look like. So basically we could kind of approach this particular diagram using the why and the how approaches. We're going to study them shortly. So we take a bigger order, a project objective or a program objective, and we kind of ask the question, how is it that we can achieve this particular objective or a higher order? We can achieve that by having these primary functions in place. Well, how do we achieve this particular primary function? By having these secondary level functions and so on. So that's usually the how approach. And the why approach is, why do we need this third level function? Because it needs to cater to a second level function. Why do we need the second level function? It's because we need to cater to a primary function. So we're going to look into an example to illustrate a function analysis system technique shortly. So here is an example of a FAST diagram. Remember the two approaches that we talked about. The how approach is usually an approach that would ask the questions from left to right, whereas the Y approach asks the questions from right to left. So we're going to kind of look into an example to understand this in a better way. So besides function analysis, another analysis that is quite popular in the space of function analysis is a technique called value tree. It's quite similar to the function analysis and particularly versatile, provides a progressive logic to measuring monetary and non-monetary value, taking account of different stakeholder priorities. So again, the same approach, the how question and the why question. So we kind of take a particular objective and create a value tree. We break down that objective into multiple value drivers. How do we make sure that this particular value driver is achieved? By having a secondary value driver. How do we make sure that these secondary value driver is taken care of? By having these design considerations and these products or elements in place. On the other hand, a why approach would be, why do we need this project or why do we need this product? Because it caters to a particular design consideration. Why do we need to cater to these design considerations? Because it caters to a secondary value driver and so on. So when you look into an example, things would become much clearer. Value trees provide a very effective method of understanding function analysis. They are particularly versatile. Essentially, a value tree identifies the value drivers that are, in aggregate, necessary and sufficient to deliver a project objective in full. It then links these to the things that the project's designers need to take into consideration, and in turn links these to the elements or products of which the project is made up of. It uses the same how and why logic as FAST. A value tree provides a way to measure both monetary and non-monetary benefits in an objective manner, as the next few slides will show. So here we have an example of the use of a value tree to articulate value priorities and measure value. So we have an example of a hospital on this particular slide. So this slide shows a simplified value tree for a hospital. So let's say the investment is about creating a new 856-bed district hospital within a capital budget of an XYZ amount and operating budget of an XYZ amount by a particular timeline. Always a good idea to have smart objectives. So as in the case of this particular example, the objectives are specific, they're quite measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So we take the objective and we kind of break it down into multiple value drivers. So the question that we're asking over here is, how is it that we're going to achieve this particular project objective? We're going to achieve this project objective by catering to these 6 value drivers. So let's take the first value driver, which is treat general and acute care patients. So taking this particular driver, the design team needs to consider, among other things, how they will receive outpatients and how they will enhance the quality of inpatient environment. So this would be the design considerations to cater to this particular value driver. So the design team's response to these considerations was to design a large outpatient reception area and provide lots of natural ventilation and daylight. So if you could clearly see, there's a kind of cascading down of an objective to a value driver to the design considerations and to a particular product or a design solution. Not only does the value tree provide an excellent description of the project, thus informing the project brief, but it provides the basis for generating innovative alternative solutions to improve value by asking the question, how else can we perform the function? I would request you to take a few minutes to explore this example in terms of understanding how to create value drivers using the how approach and the why approach. So here we have an example of a value profile. It's the same example. So by prioritizing the value drivers to align with the project sponsors or owners and end users priorities, one generates a value profile. At portfolio level, this same technique provides a method of articulating an organization's value priorities. At project level, it makes it possible to redistribute resources to where they will add most value whilst retaining other essential features. So on this particular example, as we looked at earlier on, there is a project objective up there. It's a SMART objective. So this particular objective, how is it accomplished? By making sure that we cater to the 6 value drivers. But then the question is, are each of these value drivers of the same value? What is the profile of each of these value drivers? So through stakeholder engagement and engagement with the project sponsors and other stakeholders, we might arrive at a relative importance of each of the value drivers. We could use techniques such as pairwise technique to understand the relative value of each of the drivers. For example, on this particular slide, primary value driver number 1 seems to have a 30% relative importance. And the second important one is value driver number 6. And the third one is value driver number 5, and so on. So this is just an example of a value profile.